So that's the main reason why I haven't been on Twitter as much. A lot of people would be like, essentially the inverse of this. We're like, sorry, I've been posting so much, I've been very mentally unwell. Like, that can be seen as a shit post and a joke. And it's like a joke about Twitter users broadly being unwell and being like addicted to the platform or social media generally. But that is also kind of what social media platforms want from you. They want you to be in a position to doom scroll their app and be on it for as long as possible, because that's literally the business model, to keep you there as long as possible, to serve you as many ads as possible so that they can make the most money from advertisers. That's the primary way that any social media platform makes money. And if it is the case that people being depressed and ADHD ridden to the point where the only thing they can conceive of doing is like doom scrolling Twitter while barely paying attention to any of it, in a basic sense, whatever it is that puts people in that state of mind is beneficial for them. So I've broken out of the matrix, as it were, in many ways. Wahoo. I don't know why this comment is so funny to me. Since I just posted the YouTube community tab announcement. Hello, Cassie. I looked at this one because I wanted to see what the comments were, because this one was funny. So it's this image, of course, of me doing this. And for some reason, this comment here, me when I get you, is just really funny to me. I don't know why it's so funny to me, but it is. Well, that's the new one. I don't post enough shit on my social media anymore, because I've been literally too mentally well. I posted as much on Twitter. Sorry, I've been posting less. I've just been mentally well. That's literally true. Like, I have so many more things that I care about to occupy my time. So this is the real story about why I've been on Twitter less, and broadly why I've been on social media less. The reason why I used to be on Twitter especially a lot more is, one, because Twitter is the social media format for me. It tickles my very specific mental illnesses. I really like the short form 240 character limit because it makes me have to think about the rhetoric I'm using and the word choice and the sentence structure. And I actually find that part of it kind of fun, to try to see how I can word something in a way to deliver the most amount of information possible within the character limit if I'm running up against the limit anyway. I find that really enjoyable because I'm insane. And it's also been one of my more popular and successful ones in my career online. But yeah, for one, Twitter is a lot less fun because Elon bought it and has only made it worse. The only good thing that post-Elon Twitter has done is change the media tab to look like Instagram, because previously you would just have to scroll through a bunch of Twitter posts. Some people don't like this change. I think this is actually an actual good change for the better, because like you can see a lot more than having to scroll so much longer. It essentially condenses 3 posts into one line, whereas before it would be 1 post per. So I'll take that, because it used to just be like, here's all your media that you've posted, scroll through it like this. That's bullshit. Anyway, so like it's just less fun to be on because a lot of the cool people left. You have to deal with a lot of the absolute dregs of society, the right wing that's being emboldened on the platform way more than they already were before, because they were specifically given special treatment. The initial Twitter files showed that far-right accounts were often only shadow banned as a gift to them, because if they were actually held to the fullest extent of the TOS, they would have been permabanned and unable to use the Twitter website. They were literally shadow banned as a service to them so that they could continue to break Twitter TOS, but still generate enough impressions and therefore ad revenue for Twitter, because a lot of these right-wing accounts are pretty big. So now they get even more preferential treatment than they did before, and they just become more annoying because of that. I've said this before, but I enjoyed when right-wingers had to be more creative and fun with their dog whistles and bigotry, when they had to like kind of jump through the hoops to evade getting TOS'd. But now they don't have to do that, and it's a lot less fun to just read someone call somebody an F-slur than for them to like go on some diatribe trying to get around it, you know? I find that fun, and I find the cracking of dog whistles and codes like that interesting generally. It's like a little puzzle. So that's kind of lame. So because of that, you know, I'm just not as much into the platform, but I'm also not much into other platforms either. Like Threads sucks. I don't like Instagram. Never have. YouTube community tab is whatever. You know, my YouTube is my most popular account in social media, and like my posts consistently do better there than on Twitter. Mostly because like it's more of a captive audience for my followers. They're some of the only people that'll see my community posts and whatnot. But anyway, so I'm just on social media less, and the actual reason is because I've been more mentally well, unironically. Like, this is not a joke. It may look like a shit post, but it isn't. And the reason why it's not a shitpost is because I have discovered that for me and for a lot of other people, I'm not the first person to like make this assessment or whatever, I would be posting a lot more on Twitter when I was in a worse mental state for a variety of reasons. So for one, it would be my go-to thing to open on my phone, on my PC when I had nothing else to do. So like if I didn't want to play video games, if I didn't want to work on something for my job, which is this, JOmegalolB, if I didn't want to do like chores around the house or exercise or whatever it is I might do to occupy my time, I would just scroll Twitter. And because of that, I would happen upon things that I can make Twitter posts for, etc., etc., etc. And it would keep the gameplay loop, as it were, going for Twitter, for engaging with it, which is what the website wants you to do. They want you to stay on it for as long as possible so you can view the most amount of ads as possible so that they can make more money. But now, when I have downtime, like when I don't want to do something that like immediately jumps to my mind, I have a couple other things that I'm interested in that I'm going to instead. Like I recently started learning kalimba, and by recently I mean like 2 weeks ago, and I know like almost 10 songs now, and people who have learned instruments in the past have said that I'm improving pretty quickly, so that's cool. I seem to be pretty confident in the use of this little 17-note thumb piano. We have a video on that if you want to check that out. I've been learning that, and that's been a lot of fun because music has always been a big part of my life. I never really learned an instrument before, so I wanted to learn piano, but I didn't want to get the whole piano because it's a lot of space and money investment. So I was like, okay, I'll get a little thumb piano and see what the process of learning an instrument is like for me and see if I mesh with it pretty well. Turns out I do. I'll be getting a piano at some point in the future. So if I ever have downtime, instead of being like, oh, let me scroll Twitter or whatever, I'll be like, oh yeah, let me practice that song on kalimba, or let me continue learning that other song that I've been working on kalimba. Let me do that to occupy my time. And while I'm doing that, eventually, you know, I'll get exhausted of it in my interest of it for that moment. So then I'll go back to something else, like playing a video game, like watching a series, doing work, etc., etc. Or I'll do nonograms, which is essentially like Sudoku and Minesweeper mixed into one. They're also called Picross, I think is the Nintendo game. Essentially, there's an image, like a pixel art image that you have to discover through using numerical logic and deduction. And I really enjoy doing that. I have an app for it on my phone. I do it on my PC. I prefer the PC client that I use, nonograms.org, right? Yeah, this place. I'll do that to occupy my time if I have not a lot of other things I want to do. So I just have more stuff to do when I don't know what I want to do, if that makes sense. So going to Twitter as my main social media platform is just not as interesting to me because the app is less fun and I'm less interested in it because I have other shit I could do. I have better things to do, right? And the other part of that and what's related to it is that my mental state is becoming better for a multitude of reasons. The primary one being getting on an antidepressant and also anti-anxiety med. You know, I've struggled with depression, ADHD my whole life. I didn't like the idea of being on an SSRI because I don't like the idea of being medicated generally. I never have. You know, it could be a product of the machismo or the toxic masculinity that I was, you know, molded into by society for being, you know, a man. But, you know, I've got a good therapist that I talk to regularly about a bunch of stuff that I don't talk to anybody else about. Usually, like, my internal feelings about whatever's going on in my life and in my past. And I also am on meds for my ADHD and depression. And because of that, I've had more mental energy to dedicate to a variety of things. And I also have an interest in a variety of things. So the ADHD meds and the depression meds help me with having mental energy to dedicate to something. And they also benefit in me being able to derive enjoyment from something and to get interest in something to begin with, where, you know, depression can often do that to you. I think, what is that called? Is it aphantasia, or is that the thing where you can't see things in your mind? What is that? There's like a word for it. It's not depression. It's a different word for like you can't derive pleasure from something, usually something that you would previously. Anhedonia, yes. It's like cut away a lot of that anhedonia for me, where I can actually enjoy things that I, you know, stopped enjoying for a while, like video games for one. Played video games my whole life, been a gamer my whole life. I fell off video games for a while, mostly because of anhedonia depression shit. Now I'm back on my bullshit. Now I'm back on the sauce, as it were, and I'm having a good time, and I'm also playing a lot of story-based games, which I previously didn't do that much. I just played competitive games. I'm still playing competitive games here and there, but, you know, I'm having more enjoyment of narratives and story and completing video games. And I beat Signalis recently, Liza P I love so much, Sekiro, Elden Ring, Cyberpunk 2077, probably a bunch of other games. It's been some good shit. Big fan of Liza P, by the way. Really good Souls-like. It's my favorite one in contention with Sekiro, I just have to play Sekiro for a second time, and it'll probably be the case that I like Sekiro more than Lies of P, but it'll be a pretty close fight. And Elden Ring is third for me. I have to play Dark Souls 3 at some point, though, for other installments of the FromSoft Souls catalog, and the Souls games, which Sekiro isn't. But anyway, so that's also freed up a lot of my interest in, you know, getting interested in things like, oh, do I want to get into Kalimba? Previously, I might have said no, because, like, what's the point? Yada, 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 all this depression, negative thought processes and whatnot. I was more willing to jump into Kalimba and get into it and practice it, and now I find out that I very much enjoy it. And as expected, I enjoy the idea of making my own music. I always have. I've tried several times before in my life with a legally obtained copy of FL Studio, at the time called Fruity Loops. I did way back in the past in like middle school, I tried to make music. I wanted to make drum and bass music and old school dubstep shit and a variety of other weird things. Later on in my life, I wanted to make hip hop and trap instrumentals to potentially sell because I wanted a side hustle because I need money to live. And at the time I was living alone, supporting myself and working a day job that I hated. So I was like, okay, well, we need to find alternative revenue streams because this shit ain't cutting it. I'm gonna die at this place and I don't want to. Eventually, you know, I get lucky and now I can do this for a job. But that was the play at the time. I fell off interest of that both times. And then I think I tried one more time, more recently, but very briefly. And yeah, and so this is the fourth time I've ever tried making music in my life with the kalimba, with learning an instrument, and I've enjoyed it very much. So that's good. Anyway, so that's that. So that's the main reason why I haven't been on Twitter as much. And a lot of people mention that. A lot of people would be like, it's essentially the inverse of this. We're like, sorry, I've been posting so much, I've been very mentally unwell. Like, that can be seen as a shit post and a joke, and it's like a joke about Twitter users broadly being unwell and being like addicted to the platform or social media generally, but that is also kind of what social media platforms want from you. They want you to be in a position to doom scroll their app and be on it for as long as possible, because that's literally the business model, to keep you there as long as possible, to serve you as many ads as possible so that they can make the most money from advertisers. That's the primary way that any social media platform makes money. And whatever way they happen to do that is fair game for them so long as they're getting their money. And if it is the case that people being depressed and ADHD ridden to the point where the only thing they can conceive of doing is like doom scrolling Twitter while barely paying attention to any of it, that's still beneficial for them. It's not to say that they're going to orchestrate some kind of grand plot to make everybody in society depressed and mad and unwell. That can happen, but in a basic sense, whatever it is that puts people in that state of mind is beneficial for them. It also happens to be the case that on places like Twitter, etc., making you mad and feel bad is also part of it. Like, Elon has literally openly said that he wanted to serve people content that he knew they wouldn't want to see. So, like, right-wing accounts would get served a bunch of pro-queer content, for instance, because people are more likely to engage with posts on Twitter, especially comment on them, if it's something that they disagree with, if it's something that they can fight over, rather than something that they are affirmatively interested in, which usually people would just like and or retweet. Getting the comments is really helpful because getting into long Twitter fights keeps you on the platform even longer than just passively liking things or making posts and walking away from the keyboard like I do. So I've broken out of the matrix, as it were, in many ways. And I figure I would just turn this into a little mini segment because it was on my mind. Wahoo. I definitely say that I would love to be in a healthy headspace like this. Life has been rough this year. I hope you're able to get there, typical white bread. Do you like Mala by any chance? Absolutely. Scream was the main old school dubstep producer that I really liked at the time in middle school and wanted to emulate. The Screamism projects were very interesting to me. Been playing a lot of simple 2D games as inspiration for game dev stuff. Hell yeah. I'm just catching up on chat. Happy to hear that you're taking care of yourself and you got better shit to do. Hell yeah, Bottling Sunshine. I'm glad you're doing well as well. Everybody go follow Bottling Sunshine idiots. If you don't, you're a cuck. Friend of the show. Much like Chariot as well, whom you should also follow. Excuse me. Suspiciously, Chariot hasn't been gifted a sub yet. Nor has Bottling Sunshine. That's a little suspicious, I have to say. Little sus, you know? I have not, Organis. I don't read web comments, really. I don't read anything. I am an enemy of the show, that's true. That's why you're a moderator. Actually real. How do we feel about... So I guess that's that segment.